Welcome to a special edition of WMAR-2 News. I'm Erin McPherson.
And I'm Mallory Safaste. Thank you for joining us tonight. Autism Speaks is a nonprofit organization providing solutions across the spectrum throughout the lifespan of individuals living with autism.
We're pulling back the curtain to hear from families living with autism and the Autism Speaks organization that's helping these families put together the puzzle that is autism.
And we begin with Team Azim and the Khan family.
He's like any other child. He likes, he likes to play. He likes to be interacted with. He likes attention. He's a little different in how he reacts to it, but like any other child, he's the same. And I think that's the first thing I like, people to understand. They don't understand, like, just because he can't talk doesn't mean he doesn't understand what you're saying. And just because he is, acts a little different doesn't mean he doesn't have feelings, or he doesn't understand or isn't aware of what's going on. When we first got the diagnosis, it was a shock. Like, I didn't grow up with anyone in autism in my family.
It was tough, and then because I personally didn't know what it was at that time, so like I told my husband, and then I didn't even do research at that time because I was in denial, so I thought he'd snap out of it. I couldn't call my parents or my in-laws because they wouldn't have understood. So I really had no one to talk to.
I think that's the toughest part, is like, people don't understand. They can sympathize with you, and when you tell people you have a son who's on the spectrum, who has autism, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, "I'm sorry." Yeah. And I've gotten to the point where I say, "No, don't be sorry. Yeah. There's nothing to be sorry about. It's just, you can't control it as much as you can control the color of your skin. It's out of your control. So to be sorry for it there's no point."
But I wish I would have known about Autism Speaks at that time, because all the toolkits they have and all of the support, there's people there for you. I maybe could have learned about the walk earlier on. I got involved with Autism Speaks a few years ago through social media. I don't even recall how I saw them on social media, and then just wanted to become a team captain and just take the four of us out to the walk, just to kind of see how it is and meet other families that are in the similar situation as ours. And then it just kind of blew up. We ended up having 30 walkers on our team that year, which was 2018, and I was able to raise a good amount for Team Azim. And then after that, it just continued, and last year we had the biggest team. We were about over 70 people. He currently gets ABA therapy. It's called Applied Behavioral Therapy, and I actually found out about this company through Autism Speaks, through Sarah. They come in and they do take over, and they're amazing. But they really just help him do everything. But they come in and they have like fully potty trained him. They teach him how to eat different foods. I don't know what I would do without them. How do you feel today?
I feel
You gotta finish it.
happy.
You're happy. I can tell you're happy. You're smiling. Good job.
It takes a village to raise a child.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, oh, thank you.
Can I have one too? Thanks.
I think the thing about Azim is, I think once you get to know him, like, people are drawn to him. Like, he's a man, he doesn't talk, but for some reason he meets people and he connects with them and they connect with him, and I think that's, without any verbal, interaction.
Touch silver. Silver.
Yeah.
Touch blue.
Oh, they love each other. I was afraid because he was already diagnosed, and then I had Anissa. But as soon as she came home, he was like curious, like sniffing her and like looking at her. Now, he totally understands that he has a sister. He'll verbalize like for Sissy. And if I say go give Sissy a hug or a kiss, he does it. Like, they have a good bond, and like, she is only 4, but she understands that her brother's special. But as she grows older, I hope that she'll understand more. We're here now, like 5 years later. mean, he's progressed in a lot of ways, even though he's still nonverbal, but for the most part, he's doing well. Even with this pandemic going on, he's been doing pretty well. For the future, I hope Azim just becomes independent. Finish school.
Be his own person.
Yeah.
For the last 2 years, I've had the pleasure of serving as the MC for the Autism Speaks Walk. Thousands of people show up, all waving their blue pom-poms to raise funds for Autism Speaks and to bring the community together. This year, the walk will be different, but the cause remains the same.
The walk this year is going to be all virtual, and the great thing about it for this year is that it's going to be on October 31st. So even though we're not going to be there in person walking around a track together, we hope that everybody's going to be out there in their neighborhood walking around celebrating Halloween however they choose to do in a safe and socially distant experience, but also coming out walking that 1.54 miles for the Autism Speaks community, which represents the 1 in 54 kids diagnosed with autism. If you'd like to join us, I encourage everybody across the state to walk in their own neighborhood.
Fundraising has been challenging this year, but sponsors and family teams have still managed to show up in a big way, and it's not too late for you to help.
And you can register by going to our website, autismspeakswalk.org, and find the location closest to you, which will most likely be that Baltimore walk. And click on the link, register using the link on the homepage, and then share it on Facebook. We're really encouraging people to use social media this year and reach out to their friends and family, let them know that they're walking, asking them to join them, and fundraise for our mission. 85 cents of every dollar that's raised by our community goes to our programs and services at Autism Speaks. That goes to our programs and services like our advocacy department that fights for all of our rights on a state and federal level. They've done amazing things during this pandemic for families in Maryland and beyond. We've got our programs and our free resources that are accessible, like I mentioned before, anytime. And we've got a specific fund that supports families during natural disasters like a pandemic.
One organization that has shown up and shown out for Autism Speaks is the Zeta Phi Beta sorority. Meet LaTanya Ward, one woman who has found a way to merge a mother's love with the work of her sorority.
You have to be action-oriented, and that's something that Zeta Phi Beta sorority is. We're definitely action-oriented. So speaking from, a mom's perspective, you jump into action and just start immediately. Don't walk, run. And get going, because it's only going to benefit you in the long run.
When LaTanya's son Miles was about 3 years old, she noticed that developmentally her son wasn't reaching the milestones she anticipated.
I would notice how he would respond to loud noises and different sounds, different smells, just things that would trigger him where he would go into a meltdown. So he could talk, but you couldn't understand him. Those in the Black and brown community are diagnosed much later than those of other races, and that's usually what makes all the difference in a child or a person on the autism spectrum, getting those services and getting that diagnosis much earlier in the game so they can live a productive life.
And that's where her sorority sisters stepped in, raising awareness and funds for Autism Speaks. Autism, already a national initiative for their organization, the decision to team up with Autism Speaks was organic.
So this year we really wanted to push and support in a bigger way than we did last year. We just decided, hey, let's get all the chapters across the state of Maryland involved in supporting the walk. So right now we have about 13 teams across the state that have signed up. The last time I checked, we was at about $2,300 for the walk. So right now we're at the top company for the Baltimore walk right now.
Being a mom with a child on the spectrum, it definitely, I'm an advocate just, I think, by nature. So just to know that, hey, if I am not his biggest voice, who will be? And I tell him that you have a superpower. That is, you have different abilities than others, and you have to use them to your advantage. And you're capable, you're a little different, you do things different, you're not less. Confident that he will achieve everything that he sets out to do.
15 years ago, Priscilla Bucci and Mike Mathias's 4-year-old son was diagnosed with autism. Now, 19, Henry, or Hank, is a success story in the Autism Speaks community. But when Henry was first diagnosed, there were few resources for parents of kids on the spectrum. When Mike found out about Autism Speaks, he knew he had to join the fight to change that.
As early as 18 months, you could get a diagnosis, and I think that that's something that has happened, since then. Frankly, that's one of the reasons why we support Autism Speaks, because of a lot of the funding that they have provided to grant funding and so forth has made it possible to have those advances so that we can diagnose autism earlier.
So far, the family has raised over $130,000, and $75,000 of that has come from their annual bingo game. Priscilla, Mike, and Henry say the community's support over the years has made all the difference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Absolutely.
We've met a few families that have benefited from the work of Autism Speaks. Coming up, we'll get into the diagnosis, statistics, and how you can help connect the puzzle.
While the pandemic has caused many of us to reset and figure out new routines, it's caused some in the autism community to search for a new piece to the puzzle that they thought they already figured out.
For individuals with autism, a sense of routine and predictability really can help them navigate the world better. Prior to COVID-19, I'd like to think we lived in a fairly predictable world, at least more so than where we're currently at now. So what we've done at Autism Speaks is we have a COVID-19 resource page, which has tips and tools for families to help reestablish routines, create a sense of predictability, and even talking about what COVID is.
Allison Frells is a wife, mom of 2, and a former educator that has essentially been thrust back into the world of full-time teaching as a result of the pandemic.
We've had some significant changes in our routine, in our regular life. My son has always been in school not only during the school year, but also in summer school because of his disability. And by undergoing these changes and having in-person learning removed, I felt like I was taking on the responsibility as a co-teacher.
Before the pandemic, Brooks had an individualized education plan and a one-on-one aide. The switch to virtual learning meant a reduction in his IEP and no one-on-one.
He is in an environment with excellent special educators, but without in-person prompting tools, I was taking on a lot of the role of helping them be able to present material to him so that he could be successful and retain information in the time that we were home. What's your favorite thing?
Math.
Math is your favorite? One of my large concerns with the changes in COVID was that he would lose socialization. Those skills are something that he has learned. He doesn't just adapt and pick up and know what's appropriate to say, how close to stand to somebody, how to strike up a conversation. But I was surprised that with being home and being with his family so much and not feeling maybe as on edge all the time, his vocabulary has increased, and communicating with just us has helped him to be more willing to try to say more different things.
I want to go then and play toys.
You want to go play toys?
No, I want to play computer.
You want to play the computer?
Yeah. Okay, you stay here.
My son is really energetic. He thrives on a schedule and a routine.
For Allison, the sense of community felt within Autism Speaks has truly helped their family adjust, both at the time of diagnosis and now during the pandemic.
I would say that the camaraderie is really important to me. I originally, when I received the autism diagnosis for my son, I didn't really share it very much. I didn't talk about it very much. I wasn't involved in any groups for it, and it was kind of isolating. Something that I gained from Autism Speaks was just feeling like I had a place to share my experience. I'm a marathon and ultramarathon runner, and I have run multiple races with Autism Speaks. And by doing that, that kind of is what got me interested in being involved. Even though people are spending more time apart and separated at this time, it's nice, even if it's through Facebook or Zoom or something, to feel like you're not the only person experiencing the pandemic in this different way.
One more bright spot from the time spent at home, Allison has a new running partner.
What brings me a lot of joy right now is I actually asked Brooks if he would want to run with me this summer, and he's fast and he's good, and we just go in the neighborhood and he's just like, I had to teach him road safety and stop at the stop sign and all these things to successfully do it, but he's so happy, and so that's been special.
Megan and Pete Vasco's 7-year-old son, Ronnie, is known as the happiest kid at his school and on his Sykesville block.
He's a very loving boy. He loves to give squeezes and hugs and gallop and walk around the house all day and laugh and giggle. He's always got a big smile on his face. I know he's kind of known in his school for everyone loves Ronnie because he's always happy.
But when Ronnie was around 2 years old and his skills started to regress, his parents took him to a doctor, and soon after he was diagnosed with autism. Pete says the diagnosis was devastating and one he didn't see coming.
Well, he was my first son, and there's obviously that bond between a father and a son. We're gonna go play catch. I'm gonna teach him how to fish, or he's gonna be the superstar of the soccer team, like I was when I was a kid. So once the initial shock kind of wears off, your mind does start to go to that, and you find yourself not necessarily embracing the positives, but thinking about the downside, the things that we're not gonna be able to do.
Megan and Pete say they connected with Autism Speaks, created Team Ronnie, and started fundraising just weeks later.
I didn't know anyone who had a child with autism, so I was kind of looking for anything that could give us advice, ways to get involved in the community, and to raise awareness. A lot of people that I've met through Autism Speaks is saying the same thing I'm feeling when I see their posts on Facebook or something, and I can reach out to them and discuss what we're going through together, and it's nice to have people who understand. Since we've gotten connected with them, we've had a lot of opportunities, I feel like, to get not only connections with other families, but it's led us to organizations that have just recently now reached out to us and are willing to build him a customized bike.
Through the love of his parents and the Autism Speaks community, Ronnie has grown leaps and bounds in the last 5 years.
I have a very vivid memory of us putting Ronnie to bed one night. He was probably like 3, and it was a bad day. It was a really bad day, and I remember giving me a night saying, "I love you," and he just laid there and went to bed. And Pete looked at me and said, "One day I would just love to hear him say that back." And in my mind, I was like, that's never gonna happen. But now, every night when we say, "Good night, Ronnie, good night, I love you," he says it every night.
Now the Vascos advocate for parents of newly diagnosed children and want to make sure every family knows what signs to look for.
And that's one of the reasons why we take all this so seriously, and why we really do push for Autism Speaks, because I didn't know any of that. And since I've met people who were just like me, and I've tried to advocate for them and show them the signs of what to be seen and what to be looking for, because I certainly didn't see it.
Megan and Pete say the support of Team Ronnie has been overwhelming even during the pandemic.
For Megan and I to reach out to friends, family, colleagues, and see the money coming in, it's amazing. We want to emphasize that we recognize what this nation or what the world's going through. So this is just, if there is something, any little bit that you can give to support the Autism Speaks, it's so appreciated.
Part of Autism Speaks' mission statement is promoting solutions from childhood to adulthood. When we come back, we'll show you how they're supporting adults on the spectrum.
When our crew met up with Jake and his dad, Dave, Jake only had one thing on his mind.
Yeah, so he wants to go to Bertucci's.
Cheese, car, please.
Pizza, cheese, car, please, Dad, Coke.
Jake can't talk, but he definitely gets his point across. At 20 years old, Jake and his family have had a long-lasting relationship with Autism Speaks.
They're just so supportive that, you know they're doing the right things. They're trying to provide as much help as possible to families like ours, raising awareness, acceptance. Those are the kind of things that are important to us. I mean, it's little things like, I know, best place to get a haircut, because that's a really challenging thing, or which dentist should you go see who really specializes in dealing with children with autism. In fact, one of the things they pride themselves on is this transition into adulthood that we're about to go through.
Toolkits from the first 100 days to transition to adulthood and beyond.
But there are opportunities out there for guys when they get to be 21 years old, like Jake. I've benefited, our family's benefited from having friends who have older children who are now 25, 26. So we've seen them go through that process. So I think we'll benefit from that. And ideally, I can help those that are coming down the road. That's, you know, one thing about the autism community in general, I think it's a close-knit group, and we all are out to help each other.
Bertaccio pizza cheese car, please, Dad, Coke.
So now you've seen the work of Autism Speaks and the families that we help. Look down at your screen and text to donate whatever you can, whether it's $5 or $100. We appreciate your support.
We'll take a quick break while you grab your phone and text to give.
We'll be right back.
You may have noticed that all the families we saw tonight had male children. It's not that females aren't affected, but males are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism. And in 2005, after Bob and Suzanne Wright's grandson was diagnosed with autism, they started Autism Speaks to help other families like theirs.
And tonight we've shown you just a few of the lives they've changed. If you are the parent of a recently diagnosed child or just want to join the fight, Autism Speaks is a great way to start as we all work to piece together the puzzle. Good night.